You can't, that was a joke. That was okay.
When I moved into the house that I grew up in 1957, no bathroom, no heat, just fireplaces. House was built in 1818. Interesting. And then they added an L onto it. I remember as a kid, I'd stand in the doorway between the older part of the house and new, and I couldn't put my arms around the wall. And then, even better, we had wood floors, gorgeous. Every summer we used to sand them and vacuum up the termites.
Oh, shit.
Like I said, one of these days I'm gonna write a story. I'll tell you about the bats later. It's interesting. When I went to school in Lynchburg, Virginia, all my friends were from New York and New Jersey. These are the people I got along with. And, you know, every once in a while, I lived about an hour and a half away when I went to school. I would go home for a long weekend, and I would take one of them with me. I realized that I could adapt faster to their environment than they could to mine. So for those of you that, anybody grew up on a farm, just out of curiosity? It's a very different life. Spend a lot of time on YouTube watching videos. We talk about the real estate industry, how much it's changed, and documentation and everything. It's amazing what's happened in the farming. Other people have a side. You know what? Yeah, actually, enough to figure them out. That's all I can do is figure them out. I'll leave it up to Dana. All right. So we said that this chapter is about the broker's relationship with the public. Whatever duties and responsibilities the broker has, so do we. We are sub-agents of the broker. I have a fully executed contract on a property that I have listed, scheduled to close in 30 days. All of a sudden, I get an email from an agent saying that they're about to send me an offer on the property. Do I have to present that offer?
Yes.
Unless otherwise stated.
Why?
Because Mama says present our offer until it closes.
Because that other deal could do what?
Fall through.
Fall through. And I never made that seller aware of that possible transaction. I could have cost them the sale of their home. But you'd be a little upset if you were a seller.
Yes.
See, you gotta realize that as you look at these things, when you don't do something, what's gonna be the consequences? Not the consequence for you, but the consequence for your customer. As a single agent, can I represent both parties
No.
at the same time?
No.
Why?
That's too.
You gotta do one or the other.
Okay. Well, let's see, under single agency, two of them that always stand out to me is obedience and loyalty.
Yeah, it can't be lower than 2 people.
And obedience. That's FREC, that's the state of Florida's view, not the whole country. There are still plenty of states that have dual agency. And they have transaction broker. As I explained to you the other night, their transaction broker is not our transaction broker. So if you get somebody that you're working with that happens to be an agent or is familiar with that part of the country, you gotta make sure that they understand our definition of transaction broker. Our transaction broker is their single dual agent. Because when you look at the transaction, at the dual agent, one of the examples is the part where it says that you have to hold confidential price, terms, and motivation. Well, that's also part of the disclosure requirements of dual agent. What they did to make transaction broker a non-fiduciary is they got rid of 4 things, but 2 of them very significant. They eliminated the duty of obedience, and they eliminated the duty of loyalty. I asked this question the other day. You're about to take a listing. The seller tells you not to bring any Irish people by the home, because he will not sell it to them. As a single agent, what would be the first thing I'd do in that scenario?
Notify him that what he's asking is illegal.
Fine, I'd make sure they understand that what they're asking me to do is illegal. Not for them. For you. I'll explain that in chapter 7. So the seller says, I don't give a you-know-what. Don't bring any Irish people by my house. Now, can you, because they've asked you to do something illegal, and you've made them aware, can you say this to your seller under single agency? I understand your feelings, but by law, I have to show the property to anyone who can afford to purchase it.
No. You can say that, but you can't do it.
And he says, I still don't care. Can you remain the agent in that transaction?
No.
Why?
Because it's illegal.
Because you would be violating your duty of obedience. Is that true under transaction broker?
No.
Now, under transaction broker, because I don't have that duty of obedience and loyalty, I can say to them, it's against federal law, state and local law, to do what you're asking of me. Therefore, we will continue with this listing, because you signed it. It also states on that listing that you understand that I cannot discriminate. And if you do, I'll turn you into a local. What did I turn them into?
Oh.
Fair housing? You know, concept that none of you've ever heard of. As a no brokerage relationship, what are my loyalties to? The deal.
Transaction?
That's what a transaction broker is up north. That's why you'll see the confusion when you tell them that you're a transaction broker. Because they still function under dual agency, the situation where they represent the transaction and not the people, they call transaction broker there. Which sounds more obvious than our definition of it. But it's my job to make sure they understand that.
Why was it never unified nationwide to have every state the same?
It probably has something to do with separation of state and all that stuff we didn't talk about. Something, I think it's like a lot of laws, there's certain things that they decided need to be handled state by state. I think part of it is because of the nature of the states, they're just different. I mean, go to Montana versus South Florida, it's just different. The people are different, the thought processes are different.
The land is.
Yeah, everything, yes. I had the opportunity to go to Mars. Oh, I'm sorry, it's called Phoenix. But think about it, Mars is supposed to be, the ground's supposed to be that orangey, reddish color. Anybody that's flown into Phoenix, my favorite is you have grass right here, desert there. And over there would be another patch of grass there, with a flag and a hole. They call them golf courses. They must be one nasty place to be. Have enough trouble, it's all grass.
Tractors all over the place.
Yep. Interesting. The disclosure records that I have regarding these different relationships, how long do I have to maintain those documents?
5
years.
By the way, they can be maintained digitally too. It's a good thing because this room would be full of the transactions we do on a daily, yearly basis. If we had to have, remember the old boxes with the file cabinet files in them? For those of you who've been in any kind of business, you know what I'm talking about, not just real estate.
Trucking company comes, picks them up, takes them to storage.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions up to page 71? We'll look into that. Is there anything that you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. For sale by owner,
Mm-hmm.
if the sales associate brings a client to them, who's getting, or how does that work? I guess, I'm just,
Are you asking me about the relationship or about the money?
the relationship.
Okay. If I am working with a buyer as a single agent, and the buyer says, I saw this for sale by owner, can we check it out? No problem. I contact that person. I've got a single agency with a buyer. I now have found it for sale by owner. What's the more likely scenario there as to how I will treat that seller? No brokerage relationship. Because if I can't do single agent, I already have someone. So I'd have to get her to agree to go down to either no brokerage relationship or transaction broker. So more likely than not, in a scenario like that, you'll get the seller to sign a commission agreement. And you will notify them that your relationship with them is a no brokerage relationship. And you realize we have to put that in writing for both of them.
So there is a certain commission, or it's what it's agreed, or?
I don't want to talk about commissions. This chapter is not about commissions. The answer to your question is whatever you can get them to pay. The more the better. But it's not a part of this discussion. How much they pay you, don't pay you, she pays you, they both pay you, doesn't matter. It doesn't change the brokerage relationship. It changes where the money's coming from.
The for sale by owner,
Mm-hmm.
they do that because they don't want to pay commission, isn't that?
No,
right?
no, no.
No, I'm saying.
They don't want to pay 6%.
Oh, so they only.
So
have to
they
pay
figure,
3?
you know, because see, they think they're the listing agent. That's why a majority of them, not all of them, but a majority of them will pay you 3% in a heartbeat.
I see. Some of them. say
Because
no
they know
brokerage.
that if you went to the MLS, that's probably what you'd get paid. You know, for sale buyers aren't stupid. They're not as smart as they think they are, but they're not stupid either. Anybody else? All right, let's go to 71. My favorite thing with regulatory law is every time they teach you about how it's supposed to be, what's the last thing they always do?
Tell you they
Change your shit to something else. And this one's no exception. On 71, it says exceptions to disclosure requirements. The first one says, when the licensee knows, I know that that seller or buyer is already working with somebody else. You have no reason to make any disclosure. The second one, I'm sitting in an open house from one of the agents that has a bunch of listings, and they asked me if I wanted to sit in the open house. So I'm sitting in the open house, I got brochures, I got flyers on the property, I can answer questions from the sheet. In that kind of scenario, there has been no contact that would require disclosure. Now, if you said, well, I close up at 4 o'clock, I'd love to sit down with you and talk. Now we're heading into a situation of what? May require disclosure. The third one, it says during unanticipated casual encounters. I changed that to life. Go to the bar and have a drink. You get in a conversation. The minute they know you're in real estate, if you're smart, you can get a conversation going. Because everybody's got an opinion. It's okay with me. But here's the key. I don't do business there. I ask them for their number, and I'll give them a call tomorrow, and we can set up some time to get together. See, I want to ask it that way, because I want them to give me their number. Because I'm going to give them mine. But the best situation, if I got theirs,
You control the contract.
I control the contact. Obviously, anybody that's in sales knows how that works. It's definitely new. The next one says, when responding to general factual questions from a prospective seller or buyer. For example, with a buyer calls up about a property that they saw a sign on it. And they start asking, well, how many bedrooms, how many baths, blah, 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 blah. That's nothing that requires. Basically, what you're looking at is, at what point do I actually have to make the written disclosure if it's required? Prior to the showing of property, or prior to the signing of contract? Of course, listing agreement would fall under that category. Five says situations in which licensee's communication with prospective buyer or prospective seller are limited to providing either written or oral communication that is general factual. Pretty familiar same as the other one. Number 6, when an owner is selling new residential units built by the owner and circumstances or settings should reasonably indicate that they're working for the developer. Well, you walk into the sales pavilion of GL Homes and you're greeted by a receptionist and whichever sales associate is on duty at that point. So I know them. They probably have a badge on. Some of them have attire that they wear. So it's pretty obvious that they're not there representing you. You come in with you, and it's obvious that they're working for it. That's what they're referring to there. They feel that there's no need to tell you that we're representing the builder, not you. It would be pretty obvious. On page 72, transition from single agent to transaction broker. Let's put a bracket from lines 1 to 9. And then 28 to 34. Does this require that it be in writing?
Yes.
Does this disclosure require that it be signed by the parties?
Yes.
Anytime that you're asking the public to change the type of representation they're under, it must be in writing and it must be signed. It's the only thing we've talked about that had to be signed. When you have to disclose single agency or transaction, no brokerage relationship, it's not required to be done in writing. I'm sorry, it's required to be done in writing, it's not required to be signed. The only disclosure that has to be signed is when you're transitioning from one brokerage relationship to another. If I was a no brokerage representation with a potential buyer, and then the buyer wanted me to represent them, I might change from non-brokerage into transaction brokerage. If you want to see what the notice looks like, it's on the next page. And if you want to see what the transaction broker notices looks like, you see the bold at the top of the page, and then it gets small, the font is smaller and not bold. It says, as a transaction broker. The rest of that is, if you were going to give a written transaction broker disclosure, that would be the wording. The disclosures do what, people? Whether we're talking about transaction broker, no brokerage relationship, or single agency, what are the notices doing?
Letting the public know what's going on.
It's telling the public what?
Who you?
The duties that you have towards them. Because isn't that what we talked about when we talked about the three of them? We talked about what your obligations or duties were as a transaction broker, then as a single agent. And obviously where you have the least responsibility is under the no brokerage.
But the public know those things. In other words, we're doing it to protect them and disclose, but do they actually know the difference themselves?
Do you?
No, they really.
No.
How many of you knew that this shit exists before you came here?
Okay, this should exist.
I mean, think about it. I'm telling you something, you probably have heard, if you bought or sold a piece of property, if an agent was doing their job, but it probably went like one of these, because you didn't really care. All you wanted them to do was to sell the house for as much money as you could get them as fast as possible.
There you go.
See, in my mind, it's great that we have these brokerage relationships. It's great as a selling tool of me, why they want to work with me. But the bottom line is, I don't think the majority of them care that much. they wanna know how much and when. Whether they're a seller, a buyer, or landlord, or tenant. That's what you're there for. Unfortunately, I've got a few little requirements of what I can and can't do here. Well, actually, not a few. What page are we on? And we're not through. 73 hours about what you can or cannot do, or what you're responsible for doing in dealing with the public. I think that's why, for some reason, this part of the book, which I find very easy, is very difficult for the majority of people in class. You wanna know why? What did I tell you when you walked in this door?
You have to start.
That you are known when you walk through this door? An agent? And until your brain can do that, this shit's gonna be confusing. Because this is not about you. It's about your responsibility to the public. You have to think like an agent. And you know what? If you've never been one, and never even heard any of this stuff, that ain't the easiest thing in the world to do. It takes time and effort. That's why I linger on this chapter, because I'm not just interested in the test. I'm interested in you understanding how you can use these responsibilities to your advantage when you're competing with other agents. Just don't ever tell them that as a transaction broker, you represent the transaction, because I'll beat the life out of you if you do that. Because a single agent's gonna eat you alive if you do that. I can defend myself against a single agent, unless I say something stupid like that. Now, that statement will be true.
In New York.
No, would be true with the no brokerage relationship. They're there to help facilitate the deal. So we have that version. Bottom page 73. Let's highlight that figure which says authorized relationships in one brokerage firm in the same transaction. I think we already did that about 6,000 times. Okay, on the next page. The heading is about halfway down the page. It's called non-residential transactions. Let's put a bracket from line 1 to line 22.
Yeah, the one that came around?
Yeah.
Yes.
That one, hold on. Now, this goes against everything we've talked about. I have never seen this scenario in action. That and $2 will get me on the subway. No, she doesn't need to. Thanks.
Did you sign?
$1 million.
Mhm.
It sounds like that's the requirement, that, or that's the difference
Mhm.
between residential.
No,
No?
no.
So what is $1 million got to do with it?
They decided that there had to be X amount of assets for each side in order to do this.
So if it's less than $1 million, it doesn't apply.
They can't do this. Not that it doesn't apply, they can't do it.
They can't do it. That's what we need to do.
Because you have a situation where the buyer and seller want their agent to work strictly for them. They want the firm to handle the transaction. But the buyer and seller want their own agent that is strictly loyal to them. The broker is not as directly involved in this situation. They're kind of back in the background. Because if the broker gets heavily involved in this, we got a problem. We got dual agency. Like I say, I've never seen this. I've talked to commercial people, and they say, I don't know what you're talking about. So one of these days, maybe when I'm at the instructor seminar, first of the month, I may try to catch one of the attorneys and ask them. I have a problem with, because it says so,
Yeah.
but this is kind of one of those because it says so. I have never seen anything in writing that specifically kind of explained why they do this. Like I said, I talk to commercial people. I haven't seen this situation. Probably the last time you'll see it is when it shows up on the test. And I got a feeling that $1 million will have something to do with the answer. On page 75, if you would like, at the top of the page is the designated sales associate disclosure. In the middle of the page, see where it says single agent notice? If you had to give a single agent notice, that's what it looks like. They dictate the wording. If you go into 475.278, I believe, you will see there's wording embedded into the law. But you'll notice that 1 through 9 were the things we talked about. So it makes sense. So basically, these disclosures, these notices are to let the public know what? These are my responsibilities to you. I know agents that will use the broker, the transaction broker notice as a part of the presentation. You know, besides what my company requires of me in dealing with the public, the law requires me to do these things for you. So I'm not only governed by my broker, I'm governed by the state of Florida. And they are dictating these responsibilities I have to you. It's a great little extra piece in the presentation. But I know a lot of agents that wouldn't use it. Because the seller or buyer is going to hold your hand to the fire if you don't do what it says there. So if you're not willing to do what it says, you don't want to tell them what it says. That's a person that probably you're fired would be the next thought by money. I love this. We've talked about these great relationships, how we can do business, and on 76, look at the last topic in the chapter. He'll exit stage right here. These are the types of material which is not one of the reasons for a brokerage relationship terminating. Or all of these are things that will terminate a brokerage relationship, except this has a star, and not any particular one, because the answer isn't going to be any of those. The answer is going to be something that is not one of those.
Like what?
Like anything that's not
Process of elimination.
there. How about this? If a buyer gives me an offer, I present it to the listing agent and the seller. But before I get a response back from the seller and listing agent, the buyer tells me to withdraw the offer. Would that terminate the brokerage relationship? Or would it terminate the offer? Okay, so then we do what? Find another house to make an offer on.
Right.
So them walking away from an offer is not grounds for terminating our relationship. If it was, I'd spend my life employed most of the time. And what you think about it? If every time I made an offer for a buyer and the buyer changed their mind or they were rejected, that would end our relationship. I mean, if you think about it for a second, it doesn't even make sense. But as I said to you before, when you get these lists of things, it's not common for them to ask you which of the following is one of the ways to terminate the brokerage relationship. It's more of which one is not, or all of them are except. The way you handle those questions is you eliminate all the ones that would be right. And if you eliminate all the ones you'd be right because you learned the list, the one that's not on the list is the one I'm looking for. To me, that drives me nuts. I thought I was supposed to learn the stuff that I need to know. So I don't study what's not right. Silence my granddaughter there. Questions? Okay, chapter 5. All right, chapter 5. Use This chapter also has, is highlighted. Bracketed,
The whole chapter.
the whole chapter. So save your ink. This chapter is more of an operational part of the business. Handling escrow, handling advertising. What type of business entities can be used? How do they have to be registered? We talked about the fact that one of the requirements in order to maintain an active broker's license is that you have an office. We did not talk about what the requirements of that office is. So those are the type of things. So this chapter is not really about your responsibility to the public. That's what we just got through doing. This is, if you're operating a business called real estate, here are the things you need to be aware of. Starting on page 82, '82 talks about brokerage offices. Likely to take a minute, starting with line 10 through the bottom of the page. Okay. Does the purpose office have to be in a permanent structure?
Yes.
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 You have temporary shelter.
Temporary shelter, it's subdivision,
Construction.
I know what it says. Apparently nobody else does. Show me where it says permanent.
Says station. Stationary.
Stationary and permanent, I'm not good at English, but I think there's a difference.
The permanence, use, and character of activities customally conducted at the office or shelter determine whether it must be registered.
Well, you didn't say permanent, I mean, it can't be moved, but it can,
Yeah.
but it has to be in the station.
You have, when you go into these projects, they have the portable trailers that they use for sales pavilions. What they do in the location with that determines whether or not it's a office. But let's back up, that's more a part of the branch office discussion. Main office has to exist, yes or no?
Yes.
Branch offices have to exist.
No.
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 If I'm doing something in a location that would make it like the main office because of the activities, would I have to license it?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a stupid question. So it doesn't have to be in a stationary building. Oh, it does have to be a stationary. It doesn't have to be in a
Permanent.
permanent. Okay. That sounds confusing. Do I have to have a telephone?
No.
Do I have to have an escrow account?
No.
Operating account?
No.
How big does the office have to be?
Yeah, there's one room, one private room.
One room for privacy.
For privacy and
Closing.
negotiation and closed and records. Which means a closet, if I had a lock on the door, would work just fine. You know, your wife's closet, I'm not talking about yours. Yours is, 2 by 2, it's not enough.
Right.
Hers is 40 by 20, it's big enough.
Still not big enough.
Still, for you it would be big enough for an office. I'm not gonna speak for her. Can my office be in my home?
Yes.
If zoning
If zoning permits,
and
and I meet all the requirements. I used to have, there was a couple times the years when I was doing training, and because what I was doing, for me to have an active license, or be out there selling, would have been a conflict. It was part of the agreement. But I wanted to keep my license active. I didn't want to go broker associate. I wanted to stay active broker. So if something came along, I could refer it and not be obligated to the company that I was doing the training for. So I took one of the rooms, had a lock on the door. I registered it with the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. The only other thing that was missing, which we will get to in a little bit, was the office sign. Because the office has to have a sign, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So it doesn't take much to have a real estate office. A lot of real estate agents you don't even know exist. and you've driven by the building they're in 1,000 times. Not all offices are visible, or storefronts, where the whole world can see them. They're going away from it. Why? Leaves more money in your pocket.
That's overhead.
That's overhead, exactly. Used to be every agent had a desk. From a business perspective, if you're sitting in that desk, you're not making me money. What needs to be put on the desk, your desk, is not your body. It's your closings. Forget the damn contracts, I'm talking about closings.
Right.
You're not putting closing on that table, arrivederci. You're there for one reason, to make us money. We are there for many reasons. To make sure that you do the one thing you're supposed to. And what's the best way for you to make money?
Work people.
Get out.
Talk to people.
Can't do this.
And I'm so glad that all of you have completed your list, which means you've notified everybody on that list that you're getting a license. And it's not funny.
2,000 people. today.
I didn't say it to make it funny. You are gonna lose money. Because I have a feeling in your sphere of influence, there are people who already have real estate licenses. But a lot of the people in your sphere don't like those people who have licenses. They're looking for somebody they feel more comfortable with. That might be you.
Yeah.
But if you don't bother telling them that you're getting a license, they'll wind up with one of those jerkos, and you'll watch them spend your money. Yes.
Are you violating any laws, say when you're a licensed agent, to give a referral fee? Just to, spread your,
The person that you are giving the referral fee to,
is someone.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, sorry.
are they licensed?
Your friend. Say my friend has a friend that
No,
wants
no,
to
no.
sell their house.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
I thought we learned the first night,
Right.
if you don't have a license, you don't get shit.
That's right.
Not even a candy bar,
That's
I
right.
worded it wrong, I'm sorry. Yes,
okay?
their agent is licensed, yes.
Okay. They're licensed, wait a minute, who's there?
Their buyer or acting agent, I'm just saying hypothetically.
Well, I'm not following you hypothetically.
Okay, so say my neighbor has a friend that's going to be listing her property very shortly.
Okay.
And I say, hey Maria, here's a stack of my business cards. If the deal goes through, could I give her a referral? No, she's not licensed. Good access, okay.
I hope nobody else asks me a question like that.
Brain fart.
I'm waiting for my heart to slow down. Okay. Back to where we're at. What's a branch office?
It's a satellite.
It's any place you do business other than your main office. Would the branch office have to be in a permanent structure?
No.
Another question. Before I forget. I am from Sweden. Oh, no. Which one was it? I think it's over. No, this is another one. That one's more interesting. I had a gal in class who was from Norway. Her father was very involved in brokerage and building and everything in Norway. She'd gotten her license a few years before I started teaching, and she came to the broker's course.
Can the license work, Florida?
And her objective was this, and I wasn't aware of it, and I've had people tell me it still exists. There's a lot of, you know what, I think it was Finland, there's a lot of Finnish population in Lake Worth.
Where?
Lake Worth.
Lake Worth. So, giving her ties in Finland, having a broker's license here, and over there, she can function as a broker without a license, at least at that point in time. And she came to me and said, you know, here's the scenario. I want to have an office in Lake Worth, but I'd also like to have a law since I can use one of the offices that my father has. I said, and it was funny, I happened to be going to an instructor seminar about a week after she asked me that question. And I said to her when we were talking, I'm going, let me see if I can catch one of the attorneys and I'll ask him. So I was able to get a hold of one of the attorneys and I posed the scenario of having an office here and one there. He said he wouldn't even have to have one here. As long as Finland allows it, and you sign an authorization that if we come there and want to inspect your records, you will open them to us. We don't have a problem with you just having the office in Finland. You already know that because I did the routine of the guy from Ohio who never set foot in the state of Florida. So her main office could have been in Finland. She obviously didn't elect to do that. I think it was smart, and having the base here is as important as having it there. So, but interesting how it fits into this discussion, because what you typically see as a real estate office is far and beyond what's really required of the office. So obviously those were business decisions, not legal decisions. Because it doesn't take much to meet the legal requirements. It may take a whole lot more money to meet the business requirements. But notice what we always start with. No matter what I want to do with the office, what's the first thing I gotta make sure? That's legal. Then if I want to spend $500,000 on creating the environment, that's fine. I have a trailer on a site. I just picked up 5 listings from the developer. They were the 5 models. The developer wanted to move his sales staff to the next project. So he gave me the listing on the 5 and said I could use the sales pavilion if I'd like to. Now, here's what I used the trailer for. I used it to allow my associates to be able to get out of the weather. I used it to have brochures to be able to give. No records were kept there, no transactions were consummated there. Would that be considered a branch office?
Yes.
Answer is no.
No, because it says temporary shelters only for the protection of customers and sales associates.
Now, if we'd had closings there, if we had a receptionist there, if we maintained records there, those activities would translate into the need to have a branch office.
registered as independent contractors.
You'll notice that when they talk about the corporations or they talk about offices, they don't use the word licensed. They use the word registered. But yet they still get a license. Because I've had some people who were, I was a little confused, wait a minute, I didn't know they're registered. So when they refer to a company being registered, that means they got a license. I have licensure. But let's say it. Just a different usage of terminology. Another one of those, because Mom wanted to do it that way, we can address it. Questions on the office? My main office was in that part of town. And then I noticed where you now see the BO or branch office. I realized that that part of town, we didn't have any coverage in. So we decided that we'd open up a branch office here. Is this going to require registration and fee?
Yes.
6 months into the license year for this license, I decided that we weren't doing much business because things had slowed down in that area. So, and the area over here was booming. So I want to close this branch office and open this one. Now, will this require a license, a registration, and a fee?
Yes.
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 Well, but I just moved it from here to here.
It's not transferable. Can't transfer.
Oh, you can't transfer it?
No.
What if I decided to move my main office over here? Can I do that without a fee and registration? Yes.
Just gotta let them know the address change, right?
Yes, you got to let them know address change, that would be it. Why? Because that's the one I have to have. The branch offices. Now, 6 months into the license year, I decided, you know what? Because I've moved my main office, I'm gonna put a branch office back over here in the same location. Is that gonna require a registration and a fee?
No.
Why?
Use the old, you can use the-
Because the license is still there. And as long as that license hasn't expired, you can still use it. Because you can't move it, if you want to come back to it during the license year, you can do such. So a main office is treated different than, but it makes sense. I have to have a main office, a principal office. I don't have to have branch offices.
I mean, you'll have to change the address, but you don't have to change the.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, next.
The registration is good for 1 year.
No,
How long?
2. Same as everything else.
Is it on that table, right? Is it on that table? You looking for a clicker?
Right there.
Yep, there it is.
Well,
Because I move around too much. Office signs. On page 83, lines 1 through 23. Have a start.
Can you say that again?
1 through 23 is fine.
1 through 23 as a start. Let me go back to my illustration with the office in my house. I have one enclosed room in a stationary building. I have a lock on the door. When you open the door, there's a desk with an L on it. There's a little cubby hole box sitting on top of the desk. And on top of that, in a frame that's 8 by 10, it says K. Dale Doyle, LIC period real estate. Real estate was licensed real estate broker, and you can use just the LIC. Was that sign legal?
Yes.
No.
Did you state it was at the front door?
No?
what did it say?
It didn't have the broker's name on
Yeah, it did.
Oh, it-
It's licensed.
You can't use LIC?
No. You can if it says
No, it's legal.
real estate
Yeah.
broker.
No.
Repeat it again.
Mhm. My office is the 4th bedroom. Not the whole bedroom, not the whole building. Same difference if you were in an office building. The whole building isn't the office. One part of it is the office. So why would that be any difference in your house?
it. Where is it displayed?
When you open the door and look straight ahead, you see the desk, the cubbies, and on top of that, a frame probably about the size of those frames in here, maybe a little bigger. And it said K. Dale Doyle, licensed real estate broker. Does the sign meet the requirements?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not on the.
Placement.
Oh, wait.
Could be,
Easily read.
There's no trade name.
no, but it
I don't
doesn't.
have one. I'm a sole proprietor.
It's legal, you're actually displaying it inside.
I don't have a business entity that I'm working under. I'm a sole proprietor.
Doesn't matter, it has to be in the entrance.
Just leave
It
it.
has.
It has to be at the entrance?
Or the
Then you need to reread your notes.
Exterior.
Or interior, easily read. The interior,
You're
Has
easily
to
read.
be
Exterior, easily
there.
read.
It's visible. Inside, you have it
Or
there,
the
that's it.
exterior of the
Legal.
entrance. outside or inside?
It used to be, it had to be on or near the entrance of the office,
Right.
which means before you open the office door, you would see the sign. But because of the fact that a lot of offices are in buildings and locations where they're not allowed to have a sign on the door, and the marquee at the bottom, at the entrance to the building is not acceptable, it has to be on or near the entrance of the office, either interior or exterior. Which means basically, when they either walk up to your door or open the door and look in, they should be able to see the sign. By the way, the sign cost me whatever the paper and ink and frame were worth. Because all I did was type it up on the computer and print it out, put it in the frame. Nothing says that I have to spend $800 on the sign. It's so that anybody that enters that office knows that this is a real estate office. Again, it's not about you, it's about the public. Questions on that? I have one. As a sales associate, can you be on the sign?
Yes.
Do you have to be visibly separated away from the broker?
Yes.
Should your letters be removable? Answer is yes. Especially this group. You'll notice that we don't have any associate's name on the list, on the doors coming in,
Here?
or anywhere.
Oh, I didn't know. But they come and go a lot, probably, right?
Not due to us. And sometimes we find out this is a job. And a damn hard one. And I signed off on a check for $36,000
Congratulations.
for one person. That was piddly. The next one was $135,900. That was her portion of the commission. She sold a $6 million piece of property.
Good for her.
Now, that is not real life. For you. But the people that are selling properties like that haven't been in the business 2 or 3 years. Now, I shouldn't say that because I had an agent and went to the school, and her fiance hooked her up with an owner of a hotel, and her first sale was $3 million. 2 weeks after she got her license. So you're wondering if those things happen? Yes, they do. The likelihood of them happening for you, probably 0.
It's only downhill from there. What did that
Well,
do?
I remember, within my first 2 months, I made about $5,000. I think I had a couple of transactions, one right after the other. And you hear that you never sell anything on an open house? Guess what? My first open house, first day, an agent from Fort Lauderdale brought up a husband and wife. The next day, they came back with a written offer, which my seller accepted, and we closed 20 days later. Now, I think that was $3,600. And I'd had my license for a few weeks. I said, shit, this is easy. It was 6 months before I got anything else.
Right.
Thank goodness I was teaching, or I would have started that.
But you have the listing.
Hmm?
It's easier, you have the listing.
Yeah,
It's easier when you have the listing.
this is true. It's easier when I have a buyer who's ready, willing, and able to buy. I can't find one of them. Those listings are useless. But, yes, I'd rather be the listing agent than the selling agent. But there's one thing bad about being a listing agent. You might get both ends of the deal. If you're the buyer's agent, not happening.
Is that because in an open house, somebody comes in without an agent?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you get both.
Well, if it's my listing, I
If
get
it's
both
your,
ends.
if it's your listing.
Yeah. Or if I'm out there hustling, like, you know what, you've seen $1 million listings. The agents here do that. They've got a portfolio of buyers. And they know exactly what each one of those buyers is looking for. And when it comes up, you saw it on television, I mean, a lot of that is BS, but that part of it's not. They pick up the phone and say, here's what we got. Of course, you have to remember they don't do the paperwork. You notice you never see any paperwork,
At open
you never
house.
see closings, because it doesn't make good television. I have, my wife and I have friends whose son is doing super fabulous, and he was approached by Brendan's on a listing. But what it required, it would cost me money.
Ah,
What required, I'm not telling you, but don't ask. Okay.
and it takes them away from the successful business.
Yeah.
Losing money.
Exactly. All right, next page. Next page, it talks about advertising. The first paragraph under on page 84, lines 1 through 9, I'd like for you to take a second to read through. On the board, I have the name of a brokerage firm. This is a one-page ad in the Sun Sentinel. It's cost me $8,000. And that's what I put in the ad. That's it. Is it legal?
No.
Then what's missing?
America's name, broker's name.
Or does it say it has to be the broker's
Phone
name?
number. Says it.
Doesn't say broker's name. It says brokerage firm.
Brokerage firm's address and phone number.
No.
Oh, not required. Finish the sentence.
Apparently, we had a slight problem reading that little paragraph. Actually, it wasn't a slight problem. It was like, I don't think you were reading the paragraph. Is that a legal ad?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that a stupid ad?
Yes.
I didn't ask you that. You have to be careful in this chapter. Those of you that are calling yourself business people, this chapter is dangerous. Because there's no way a good business person would do that in an ad. But I didn't ask you. I asked you, was the ad legal? Not, was it stupid? The answer to, is it stupid? Yeah, I'd have to be a fool. Well, I'd probably get a ton of calls, wouldn't I? Wondering what the hell this is all about. But they can't call me, why? They don't know my number.
Then you pay $1,000.
Yep.
Google.
Because the question wasn't, was this a good business decision?
No.
The question was, is that a legal ad? The answer is yes.
Yes, because.
And why does that make that ad legal?
Because under your supervision, you're the broker.
Has a brokerage firm.
Now, I told you in the other chapter, and I've told you in every chapter, all this shit is done for protection of the public. So, does the public have the right to know when they see an ad of any type, internet, wherever it may be, that they are dealing with a real estate company and not the owner of a property? Yes, and that's how you tell them. But we lost sight of why we have to do this. What else you put in there is fine as long as it's current and legal. But I know somewhere in that ad, I got to have the license name of the brokerage firm. The rest of it will be as necessary for what you're marketing it for. Ben's name does not have to be in the ad. That doesn't mean it won't be there, it just means it doesn't have to, because it doesn't say broker, it says brokerage firm. Because if I put up for Ben G. Schachter, would you know that person was a real estate agent?
No.
Do you know that you're going to be dealing with a real estate company?
Yes.
Okay. You see the word realty? It's another name for real property. And I think it's where the term realtor came from. I'm not 100% sure.
Unless your last name is Realty.
Yeah, my first name is ABC. As a sales associate, by law, are you allowed to put your name in the ad?
Oh, well, wait a minute.
Yes.
You can't do the ad without your
No.
brokerage. Not a brokerage.
No.
They're not a brokerage. And they're all-
Do me a favor, don't give me a dissertation of the information, just answer my question.
No, but
Absolutely.
Yes.
they can.
Under the brokerage, under the brokerage, you have to put a brokerage.
Now, everybody stop for a minute. Listen to the question. Can a sales associate have their name in the ad?
Yes.
Yes. I didn't ask you what else had to be there. Answer the question. Trick question, Mike. There's no such thing as trick questions. But there is such a thing as, I have trouble reading the English language. Which I think we have seen that this week, that it must be an epidemic. I warned you early on in this course, words are important. So there are words, one or two words there can change the whole meaning. My name is Robert Smith. but I go by Bob. Can I use Bob Smith?
Yes.
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 As long as your last name is what's registered with DPPR.
You could say Mickey Mouse on there, couldn't it?
The nickname.
If it's registered.
Yeah.
Somebody tell me how your name is registered with DPPR.
Your legal name.
Tell me what it is. What's it say?
Mine?
Yeah,
Copy of license.
okay.
What if you go
And
by
you have a
Javier the
nick-
squirrel?
A nickname of Shorty.
Tabby.
Can he use his nickname as Shorty?
Yes.
Because that's his registered name right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you have to do the thing.
As long as it provides his real name as well.
Now, my registered name in Orlando, in Tallahassee, is K. Dale Doyle. So what has to go on my business card? K. Dale Doyle. If you go by a nickname, you have to have your registered name there first. And then the little ditties for the nickname. Because you're gonna bug the marketing people on the other side of this room over what name you wanna put on there. Whatever your registered name is what they're gonna put on the card. What they're gonna put on brochures, on flyers, on postcards. If you don't like that, change the damn name. But don't go giving them a hard time. Because all they're doing is what? Legal. And if they're not sure, they come ask me. Can we do this? Most of the time the answer is yes, no. Because if it's like Robert and Bob, that's not a big deal. Richard and Dick, not a big deal. Do we have to have a telephone number in the ad?
No, I'll revise it.
The brokers are not.
Can the sales associate put their number in the ad? Notice what's in the gray box at the bottom of page 84. I have this question. In my ad, I put, for more information, call Dale Doyle. At whatever number. Would that be legal?
Yeah.
Why?
No.
I believe you just said
Because it says that at minimum I have to have what?
your last name.
Last name, I have my last name. Now, could I do call Doyle?
No.
No.
Minimum's your last name.
Yeah, you can.
See, the problem with my last name, it's also the first names. And my first name is also last name. I figure I could mix them up and mix and match here. And notice it does say there that the firm's telephone number is not necessary, address or anything. What's a blind ad?
It's illegal.
is that?
It's an ad where the public would not realize they were contacting a real estate firm.
Yeah. It's misleading.
That's the reason that has to be there. On 85, line 7, it says including personal information. Licensees may insert their personal name in the ad provided they include their last name as registered with DBeeper. Advertisements created by sales associates must be supervised directly by the broker. Sales associates and their broker should review the advertisement for accuracy and also make certain that the ad is canceled when, due to sale or listing expiration, the property is no longer on the market. Licensees may indicate their nickname on business cards and in advertisements, but only if their legal name as registered with the beeper is also indicated. That we were talking about. Sales associates may indicate their after-hours phone number and/or address on their business cards, provided the card also includes the name of the brokerage firm. So anything that you can think of that could be marketing, and business cards would be marketing, whatever else you have there, you have to have the brokerage firm.
Oh, no.
The next thing they talk about is false advertising. I would hope I wouldn't have to explain what false advertising is. How about this situation? Get this right, we'll go on break. If you don't get it right, I go on break. You come and write on the board, they answer 200 times, like we're back in 3rd grade. Oh, now they wouldn't probably let you do that. You'd probably get fired if you do that. Physical abuse or something. I just got a listing on 4 properties owned by a developer. Because of the type of properties there is a specific publication we've found as a company to be very effective in marketing properties of that nature. So we set up an ad. We have the marketing department set everything up. We come back, take a look at it, see if it's okay. We send it to the publisher, who comes in and sets up the copy, brings it back for corrections and approval. The final approval is given. 3 days later, it goes to press. 2 weeks later, it starts hitting the newsstands. The day it hit the newsstand, 2 of the 4 units sold. My question is the ad illegal?
Technically, yes.
They want to tell me
The answer to
So
the
you're not
question,
doing
wait
it
a minute,
misleadingly.
the answer to the question is yes or no.
Yes.
No.
How many of you say it is not a violation? How many of you say it is a violation? Let's try this one more time. How many of you say it is a violation? Raise your hand. How many of you say it is not a violation? Raise your hand. So, I'm going to ask a question here. Everybody listen very carefully. When the public picks that magazine up that morning and opens that magazine to that ad, is that ad current, correct, and accurate?
No.
Then it's in violation of the law. Which part of that don't you understand?
So I'm going to break.
No, but. I asked you, was the information correct and current, and you said no. That makes the ad illegal.
So how do you write that?
You don't! You fix it! Now, you listen to me very carefully. Stop defending yourself. I didn't ask you if you did anything wrong. I asked you, was the ad illegal? At that moment, there would be shit you could do about it. Because the publication's good for 6 weeks. They pull it off the newsstand after 6 weeks. But see, you and Crick, you weren't thinking about the public. You're thinking about, well, what the hell am I supposed to do about it? And the answer is, fix it. Now the question is, how do I fix a situation like that? I make sure everybody in the company knows that the first 2 properties are under contract. So if anybody communicates with any agent in the company about those properties, they will be immediately told they're gone. Or if you don't, and you suck them in, making them still there, they call that bait and switch, which is illegal.
What if it's sold immediately when the publisher came out?
That's what he
Is the information in the ad current and correct? Yes or no? Yes or no?
I don't know.
I don't know what the answer
I don't know. I mean, if the publisher came, if you open the newspaper, he came up on the 8th, and hold on. He came on the 8th, you open the newspaper on the 10th, and they sold it within 2 days.
It's not correct.
Sold? Sold?
It's sold.
The ad's illegal.
The 8th to the 10th, it's sold.
My question is this. 2 days after it went on, it sold, correct?
Yeah.
So if the public read the paper that morning, would they have known that that unit had sold?
No, I said 2 days after the reading.
Whatever.
Okay, would you know, 2 days later, when they pick up the newspaper, by looking at that newspaper, would they know that that unit was sold?
No, but that's why.
Yes or no?
No, they wouldn't.
Then it's illegal.
Break.
And you need to fix it. No, there's no break. You screwed it totally up.
I got it.
I know you got it right.
We got to invent a newspaper that updates itself.
It's called the internet.
Even that's not fast enough.
The other day.
But you, see, some of you still aren't getting it.
It needs to
I
be
didn't
correct.
ask you if the licensee did anything wrong, because at that point, the last licensee had done all they could have possibly done, fix it.
It's misleading.
The point of making it illegal the second it's not current, it now forces us to do what? Something so the public isn't misled to believe it's still available when it's not.
False advertising.
And that could be, pulling the ad. If it's in the Sun Sentinel, I can pull the ad in a day.
Let me ask you a
You
question.
have to.
I got a question. Many times I call MLS on listing that's still there, they didn't remove
Yeah.
it. Is it legal or not legal? They don't remove it. It's still there, and then I call.
not legal.
It's illegal. They didn't remove it.
No.
Happened a lot.
What were you doing in MLS? You have no business being in the MLS. Whoever gave you permission to get in it violated the rules of the MLS.
I'm sitting with the reader.
You listen to me very carefully. You do not hand your username and password for the MLS to anybody that's unlicensed.
That's correct.
You'll find yourself somewhere else other than here. And you'll have the association, the MLS after you too.
When it's pending.
Oh, by the way, you know the super keys that you can get, the really cool things from
Super.
electric? $5,000 fine if you let somebody use it other than you. It is,
For lock.
Scan it,
Yeah.
scan it. Scan it.
but not the ones where you push the buttons.
The bottom is illegal too. But it's less fine on the bottom.
Say what?
The fine is lower on the bottom than the Sopra.
No.
Same fine, right?
See, what you need to understand, people, is with this routine, and there's umpteen different ways I could have presented that, but the bottom line is this. If what the public is looking at, I don't care where it is, it needs to be correct. Now, what that entails depends. I mean, like the example I gave, this isn't something you're gonna fix overnight. The only way you can protect the public is to make sure everybody in the company is made aware of the fact that units 1 and 2 have already been sold.
Yeah.
Then, yes, the ad was illegal, but no, we didn't do anything illegal because we made sure the public was aware
Yeah.
of the change. Now, obviously, if I'm gonna run the ad again next time, obviously I have to pull those 2 listings. Or, better yet, I'll leave them there and put the word sold
That
across.
has to happen all the time. That has to happen all the time, right?
You know what? I don't list properties, I sell them. That's the message that they're trying to get across when they leave it like that.
But at least them said that.
Under contract in 10 days. Fell through the day after. I love that. And I watch that stupid million listing, and it just aggravates the shit out of me. I think I do it just to punish myself.
And everyone, they get like all like gazillion,
You know what? It's good television. And
I like the
some of it's
negotiate.
true and some of it's not. But again, understand, an agent's life in New York City, from the standpoint of what they do and don't do, is different than it is here. So, yes, you're gonna see less involvement with transaction, with documents and stuff. That's not, their job is to get the 2 people together. Then the processors take over. All right, let's take a break, come back.
So that makes you say.
Yeah.
I'll invite you to our team meeting.
Thank you.
Because I did aerial photography, that's separate from me.
Oh, you looked at it? You're good. That's my daughter. She's a grad student at GSA. So if you like it, like where the other songs on there.
And I
Share
am
everybody, you know.
the,
If you don't like it, share it 10 people.
Harry people.
She's in grad school with her PhD. There's one of the,
I know, but again,
oh, okay. It's called InspireLoveDream.com.
I didn't get a chance to watch the video.
but there's something wrong with it.
Oh, okay. So let me-
Read through the chat.
Oh, for sure.
If you have any questions,
And it's so funny, because I just got off the road, and can you read it?
yeah, I know, don't.
Dale,
Yes.
did you take last class, or?
Yes, but there's something wrong. Yeah. You know what, highlight and copy everything, if I did, read through it. Any questions? More than that. Yes. If properties, technically, yes, they could be single agents in one transaction and transaction broker in another.
Long time for me.
Okay, so it's not black or white.
No. Although, as a broker,
I mean,
I'm probably gonna wanna go one way or the other. I'm not gonna let some go one way and some do it another. That would be legal, but it would be dangerous as far as I'm concerned.
I just wish that it was a special agent. I know, she said she called from a special agent.
It's just a fancy name.
Okay, that's what I figured. But would that mean?
trying to find a way to make her stand out from everybody else.
Okay, but it would make her a single, a short single.
Not necessarily.
Okay, I didn't know if that, okay.
See, those type of things don't necessarily say whether it's single agency or general property. You know it's probably one of the two because they're talking about representative.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't mean non-brokerage.
No, but okay.
But, you know, it wouldn't be inappropriate for that terminology to be used in either transaction broker or single agency.
So, for the fingerprint guy, for the people, they told me that I have to do it again. So I called to
Do the application again?
No, I did the.
Fingerprints?
Yeah, for the fingerprint. I remember that I told you that I did it.
Oh, so you didn't do
Yeah, but
it?
they said that they can't combine two. If you
Right,
do the same
I didn't
time.
think so.
Yeah, so I do the paperwork and everything, I pay for it, I'm going to do it on Monday.
Okay, that's fine.
And then my question at the beginning,
This is what the question that I have right now.
I meant, I had a
So those,
and I said, oh, I'll be getting a real estate. I could be able to review my on their list.
you know, I'm looking at, like, 90 when I'm I'm not looking for
Typically,
75.
typically three.
You know?
Listing side is three and the sales side is two.
Good.
But it varies, depends on the age.
Good.
The buyer. Okay. Now, the buyer
Those
goes,
are my tests. That's it.
seller pays,
They got
part of the commission is given to the broker, the agent, as the buyer. And we'll let you manage it. Well,
Those are things we
You
still feel.
should be go subnetting, you know what I mean? Subnetting, because I have some. If you can understand subnetting, the subnetting, I'm sure what subnetting is. If you can do subnetting, you can do anything. It's a subnetting.
oh,
It's a subnetting. If you want to have an IP address, and you have to calculate, you know, all. Network. Because you can pick one network, and you pick one network, and you finish off network. Another thing to do is the subnet. That's it.
And then you assign
Yeah. IP address, you know, everything for each of them. You know, for each of them, but each of them could have like 10 or 15 employees. You know what I mean? Like workstation.
company that taught
All right.
Oh,
MCS.
Busy.
okay.
No.
Of course.
Oh,
I didn't have anything, but,
yeah.
They did some
I have,
okay.
I'm taking a lot of courses.
they had specific, government
Well, I have, you know, I've been taking seminars, insurance and one,
Okay.
but
spare place to.
there's one area that I want to go into that I have a feeling is, I'm gonna have to be very careful.
yeah.
I know, but you were around that, you know, yeah, you gotta, it's good to have, you know.
I want to target a certain population. Try to help them out, but, you know, get them out of mind, but,
Got you.
they go there, wondering, what they'll have, do
Yeah.
something to get them out of financial bond or marital bond, something like that, so.
Was this a vision that you had personally some time ago, or something that
No, I
already
was,
existed?
been to so many courses, but this one really like, impressed me. And, you know, there's marketing involved, you know, you have to do some direct mail and follow-ups and all that. But it's very, you know, it's proven to be very effective. So, we'll see. We'll see. I was waiting for him to send me to the corner with a guns cap on. Do you know what a guns cap is? They didn't-
Those pointy things?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think they had it today.
Go outside to warm up.
Yeah.
Ćerima neka da ide na website da nešto lajko na onda share sa friends. Čeri pravi su video na launch i sam idemo da share sa friends. Da, to. Popularno nešto. Share.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
I'm tired, but
That
very
makes
cold
it
in
worse.
here.
I'm never cold, but I think it's cold every night. I forgot what he said about when you can maybe switch that thing.
I feel our fingerprint.
After the criminal background check is completed?
Yeah, that's done. Should be good.
I have to go get fingerprinted this week.
Like music.
Mhm.
They take up my daughter's website. She's part of a written review competition. She's basically upstart cinematographer, an artist. She's also in grad school.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
So you just look at it, see the website, music, if you like it, send everybody down. If you don't like it, send it to 10 people.
All right.
Okay?
Definitely do. What's your name, by the way?
I'm Darwin.
Darwin, nice to meet you.
Right there.
Sweet.
All right,
Nice to
thank
meet
you. And I kept telling everybody about you, buddy. When I was up at Orlando, I went up there for a workshop. Yeah. Right. I had to be there for the school workshop. But, yeah, I shared with them that you just graduated and that you were working out with you. So much your business. Area. So I passed it out to 2 people. Okay? The other thing too, to look at, as fire love.
Yeah, go ahead.
My daughter, she's military. She's in grad school at the University of Texas A&M.
You look at, Facebook ad.
She, her family, some accounts like little bars type or
Because I was confused about
spoken word.
first view.
Really had it, like the most current one, and the sheriff.
What's at the bottom says,
Don't like
it
it.
should be line 58, 36.
All right, she's in grad school, this is all the
Oh, I'm on the road.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gone to that,
Oh, you did? Where'd you go?
it's for 3,200, South Ocean, and, Palm Beach. Well, those are-
Oh, the apartments.
I'm
Okay.
gonna-
So they weren't you want to do it? Or
Yeah, the realtor I was working with before.
okay.
But, yeah, but it was really bad because I learned a lot today. The guy who's selling, he already moved to Oyster Bay, New York.
Okay.
But he left the place just like it, so there's shoes, there's stuff.
That's all over the place.
Now I
Really, all this stuff. And then brought back it first floor.
I guess the question is why
They were in the middle of it's like, the guy, first of all, is overpricing about $40,000. And,
But you know what?
yeah,
Okay.
It's only that some.
It's not selling. I mean,
Because he's not, I was just, so I thought,
everyone wants to say,
okay.
Like crazy, right? There's a place I saw that's in,
Okay,
being advertised in Zillow.
yeah.
Yeah, no, so, and it's, the house was.
Okay, Steve, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Built in '79, and refurbished in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, refurbished right in the day.
Families, Hollywood, I wish I had a card already, you know, because like.
It wasn't rebuilt, it was just
This winter were coming down.
Yeah.
So,
Look, that's why I did, I scribbled, like, I knew it was illegal.
Yeah.
According to the way it was labeled.
Yeah.
So I scribbled, I put my cell phone number in again, so they have a card.
Yeah.
Huge nonprofit, what they
Yeah,
do.
that's the hard thing.
Okay,
You know, well,
yeah, I used to exempt from mail business.
if I get a chance to share this with you, I'm gonna share it with you or not. I
Exempt
want to make sure you get a chance to do this with my daughter.
So I had first one, service mail, and the
Inspire
second one,
Love.com, she's at the University of Texas.
When I was developer, they had issues to salaries, to
Competition,
in the
I'll start
thing.
photographer.
I do, I don't use this is my right now, so it's not. I would do it.
Thank you. Channel?
Well, there's a spot where it's okay if it's salary, but it,
Yeah, that's her. The only person that's not her is the. No, she's not. The one doing the fire is not her. She also has the NPR acoustic version, and I like that better because I can acoustic guitar. And it has more, you can hear more of her.
the thing that got me was, she wasn't receiving compensation for it.
They would have been.
Well, I went to that.
Thank you.
She did it.
No, I I don't wear my own. My wife
But
will
it's.
Walk that with me.
Yeah.
Number one is, I saw no commission.
Mosquito bit me up just within a few seconds.
Yeah, something flew at my finger.
Associates, right? Because now,
I was a kid.
I used to go a lot with my dad, he's a traveler. Take group trips now, especially more than weekends. I used to go all the time.
so you speak to a
After
lot of
my
people.
daughter was born, her and my husband would go a lot.
In what capacity, face to face or telephone?
And then we wanted to go.
Face to face?
Yeah, you do. You get tired of going with just. Yeah.
You don't like that or something? It has its good days and bad days. Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I'm in education, so there are good days, there's better days, and then days require prayer.
Most days.
Right, right. Yes. I teach No, we can't go yet. We need to get our hours in. Like it?
I'm a little bigger. Need more room. People didn't big was.
Yeah, we got to excuse
That's what I'm there, you click onto the Spotify or to the SoundCloud. You'll see all of the songs. Go to YouTube and just type in ideas. They're simple and thank you. How you doing? There's another thing too, like you're a person that I've been using that this Friday. Well, I'm not from this area, but I listen to them. But yeah, they're gonna have something there.
I got that wrong. Puedes enviar un videoclip en YouTube de esa parte que acaban de grabar.
Sí, recuerdo de los
Cantautor y romántico un poco.
Okay, let's continue. Just one more comment on the illustration that I did. The point that is being made with those types of questions is to see if you understand why it's illegal, or what makes it illegal. And it all feeds back not to what you did or didn't do. It all feeds back to what the public sees, or what the public receives. And this is no different if we're talking internet. We'll talk a little bit about the internet in a few minutes. You'll see that they define false advertising And notice the reference to 475.42. This is right on page 85. Yes, 85. Unfortunately, our predecessors used any means available to them to suck the public in, get them to buy. Of course, the joke's always about selling foreign swampland. It's not a joke. It actually happened. So you have to realize a lot of times what you're being told that you can or can't do, you're being told how you have to do something, has nothing to do with you. It has to do with your predecessors. And putting the public in jeopardy by their actions. This is when the agencies step in from that regulatory position. What can we do to cut down on this abuse? Or eliminate. If you put an ad, if you put a telephone number in your ad, and the company's name is also there, where should the telephone number for you, the agent, go?
Under the,
Is it your personal phone number?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
That would go in.
It can be listed, it can be listed there, but
I'll give you a choice. We go in front of the company,
No,
after the company,
no.
or after the after the sales association.
After
After
the
the
sales
sales
association.
Because if you put it after the company, that makes it look like they're calling the company.
Right.
That's the point they're making with the illustration at the bottom of page 85 and 86. You'll see in the second version of it at the top of page 86, you have the company, then you have the associate, and then you have the phone number. They have a phrase that they use in discussing this idea of disclosure when it comes to the internet. It's called point of contact information. You know that in the websites, there's always 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 places where if you want more information, please fill this in. Everywhere you have something of that nature in your website, you have to have the license name of the brokerage firm near it. So it's a reminder to that person who's giving that personal information out that they're giving it to a real estate company. It was interesting to watch them scramble as the internet picked up steam as far as marketing real estate. Because there was nothing in 475 or in the rules of the commission that addressed the issue of advertising on the internet. So they had to crank it up pretty quick. And I think what you see there kind of makes sense. So if I'm giving information away, my contact information, I have the right to know who I'm giving it to. Also on page 86, lines 9 through 20. For example, the one that they're using here was probably the best example they could use. What the term realtor, you just passed the state exam. Ben has registered you with Deep Reaper, so your license is active. At that point, can you now refer to yourself as a realtor?
No.
Somebody's alarm. Car alarm.
Stop. Right, so as a thief, I just let it beep until it stops. I never got that.
Second guess.
No, I'll go out tonight, that'll be. All right. I am a licensed real estate broker, sales associate, broker associate. I am gonna play for sale by owner. So I put an ad in the paper on my property. Do I have to make sure at some point that the public knows they're dealing with a real estate licensee?
Yes.
Even though at this moment I am not functioning as a real estate licensee, I'm functioning as the seller of the property.
Yeah.
When would I have to do that? The answer is prior to meaningful negotiation. So would I have to put it in the ad?
No.
Would I have to put it in when somebody comes out to look at it?
No.
But if they say they want to make an offer, now I need to know. I'm also going to put it on the contract. We even have an addendum, it's only about that much, that makes sure that everybody in the transaction knows that I'm licensed, or I have a direct relationship with the buyer or seller. It's like recently when my daughter sold a property and bought the new one, I made sure that everybody knew that we were licensed. Of course, it was kind of stupid because everybody that was part of it already knew that I was licensed.
Now, would the broker normally allow that to happen?
What?
If you own your own house and you work for a broker,
Yeah.
to list it on your own and without the broker?
Maybe not advertise on your own, but the deal around here is you get one a year, where the company doesn't take their part of the commission. Oh, by the way, if you come in 3 weeks after you get your license, you want to sell your house, you want your first freebie,
Yes.
that's probably gonna be a little bit of a stretch. You put no money on the table, you eaten up the resources of the company, what I'm sitting here, and now you want to sell your house for free. I mean, if we look at that from a business perspective, It's a great deal for you. Not a great deal for the company.
I mean, you gotta appreciate the effort though, right?
I don't have to appreciate anything.
Sell before you pass your test.
No, you don't want to do that. You gotta make sure you pass the test first. Notice the fine is $300, and it's one of the citations. And you know citations are from 100 to 500. And at the bottom of the page, they talked about the buy owner. All right, on page 87, telephone solicitation. There are obviously limitations as to who we can call. Used to be call anybody you want to, anytime you want to. Now, there's quite a few restrictions. The first paragraph on page 87 talks about the National Do Not Close Registry for consumers. Notice the fines can be up to how much?
10,000. 10,000.
No,
Each legal call.
on line 8, it says up to 16,000 for each illegal call.
Does,
Florida's 10.
does the company have subscriptions to the do not call list that the sales associates can use to search numbers?
No.
No. Because that's an expensive registration.
Yep. Also understand this. If the company gives you a referral, it's a gift. Gifts have to be earned. Because the company, as you just stated, spends money to get those leads. And we have a person who's in charge of doing that. You can meet with her once you've gone through all the training. Because she wants to make sure that if she gives you a referral, you can handle it. So, if you were out talking to brokers, which of course you're not going to be doing, if I was interviewing you and your first question is, how many leads do you hand out a day? The interview would be over. Leads are not freebies. You want leads, you should be doing what I told you to do that everybody finds funny that you haven't done yet. There's leads that cost you what? And most of the people, maybe not all of them, but most of the people you sort of like and know. And they think you're not too bad. And remember, the list you're making are not buyers and sellers. They're your window to the world. Because all those people up north, quite a few of them each year move here. So I've got contacts up there who are never gonna move. They hate Florida. I will make sure that every time they hear one of their friends, relatives, or neighbors talk about, we're thinking about moving to Florida, I want them to hand them a card. That could be going on in Paris. That could be going on in South America. Can anybody tell me what the most northern city is in South America?
Cities?
In North America?
I want to know the most northern city in South America. You ready? Miami. What do you mean, why?
South.
You look at the population of Miami now, compared to the population of Miami 20 years ago, and tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because they come up here with money, and they buy property, and that creates more tax dollars, and more commissions.
The sales, is a sales associate, after he's got the license, have a website, he has to get the permission, I mean, he has to get approved by the broker?
You have to get the permission of the broker to breathe, yes.
So it has to be verified by the broker?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask a question. If you were the broker and you were responsible for that website, if there's something illegal or wrong in it, would you want to see it before it was put up? I mean, just look at that from a business perspective. I'm personally responsible through the company for every website that you guys put up there on the internet. So, yeah, I think that the company might want to kind of know what you have in there.
In the role of a real estate agent.
Right.
Yeah, if you have a different
Yeah.
website, doesn't matter.
It has nothing to do with real estate. And of course, we also have someone that will help you set up a website. In the middle of the page, it talks about state regulation. That first sentence where it says Florida telemarketing law is administered by the Department of Agricultural and Consumer Services has a star. Lines 18 and 19. I noticed the fine for Florida is only 10,000 for the call.
Biggest line is way better.
Yeah.
Could you get slapped with a 16 and a 10 though?
Yep.
So if you're calling expired listings, how would you, if you don't have access to that, to the DNC list, how would you know if they're on the DNC or not? You just take it.
That's why you spend the money to get those lists into, because they're scrubbed. The same thing as what the company does. Like I said, the easiest place to get referrals is from the people you know, honestly. An agent that really puts effort behind doing that typically is successful, because it slowly but surely balloons. But remember this, every day you don't prospect is a day down the road that you have no money. So you don't feel the benefit right away, and you also don't feel the danger right away. Because obviously I get a lead, it could be months before I get paid. I have to realize that if I have a disease called instant gratification, then if I'm going to stay in this business, I probably should get therapy for it. Because this business doesn't work that way. And you also have to be prepared for failure. I won't even go into that part. And you didn't do anything wrong. The next star is from 22 to 41. Just put the star beside it. Don't read it right now. Let's talk about what this is about. One of the big issues when this is a part of the discussion is the for sale by owner. In the state of Florida, the minute a for sale by owner exposes themselves by putting a sign in the yard, by putting their names in Craigslist, by, advertising. The minute they do that, you can attack, according to state law. You can pick up the phone and call them. Federal law says you can't do that. But here's what you can do. You can call that seller on behalf of a buyer you have who is interested in the seller's home. You cannot, however, use that as a tool to get a listing, unless you're invited in by the seller to discuss that. Now the question is, which one takes precedent? Because there's a slight difference there. The answer is federal law takes precedent. Because you're gonna have situations where you're gonna drive by a for sale by owner, and naturally, everything that you've shown them so far they hate. But then the for sale by owner, who has not yet agreed to pay me anything, that's why I have a buyer brokerage agreement. If I don't get it from the seller, I get it from the buyer. So if I call the for sale by owner on behalf of that buyer, obviously I need to get at minimum a commission agreement before I show that property. I already have a buyer brokerage agreement. Would it be legal if I made the seller aware of the fact that I was not representing them, I was there on behalf of the buyer, and I gave them a no brokerage notice?
Say that again?
What did you give them?
I gave no broker to the seller.
The seller, yeah.
And I asked the seller to sign a commission agreement for 6%, which they agreed to do. Am I okay so far?
Okay? Yes.
Because of the fact that I don't have to represent someone to get paid by them. Think about a co-broke, or one company has the listing and the other company has the buyer. The seller still pays the commission, but this other agent over here doesn't represent the seller because that's where the commission is coming from. Actually, the commission doesn't come from the seller.
Comes from the other.
Commission comes from the listing agent. And that's based upon what they agreed to pay you in the MLS. By the way, in the MLS, it's none of your business how much they charge the seller. All you have the right to know is if you sell this listing, how much the listing office will compensate. So they could have a 7% listing and be paying you 1%. Normally, it's 50-50. But it's only norm, it's not required. Of course, if they're offering you 1%, I don't think you're gonna be in a big hurry to do what? To show the property.
Right.
But of course, with my luck, that would be the only house that the buyer likes. The 3 bullets at the bottom of the page, let's look at the second and the third one. We already talked about the first one, that's for sale by owner. It says the sales associate may contact any village with whom the associate has had an established business relationship, even if those customers' numbers are on the national registry. For example, the company that previously listed a property may contact the former customer to solicit new business for up to 18 months after the business transaction has been concluded. And then the bottom one says, sales associate may contact a customer for 3 months after a business inquiry or application. Now, notice that says application or business inquiry. It didn't say that I've been driving around for 3 weeks. The real key to this, to be able to continue to communicate with them unless they do the don't bother me sign anymore, is that you don't allow time to lapse. You've got to keep in touch with them. Of course, in today's world too. Well, let me ask you this question. Would it be illegal to knock on the for sale by owner's door? Yeah,
As a license,
as a licensee,
yes.
to try to get a listing.
Try to
I
get
thought
this.
you
Yeah,
said
try
that,
to get a listing.
I thought you said that you had to go with the buyer.
Let me ask you a question. What's it say at the top of the page?
Telephone solicitation.
It didn't say knock on the door.
Right.
Solicitation.
This is telephone.
The only limitation is something that would go through that telephone, like a fax machine.
So,
Doesn't say solicitation, it says telephone solicitation.
So you could,
I had an agent, she got into real estate, she had 4 kids building a new house, and her husband was in the Middle East under contract. She decides to go into real estate. And then she decides that this for sale by owners is a great thing to do. But, and this is the part that blew me away, she couldn't pick up the phone and call them. She said, I'd rather do a knock on their door. I haven't had too many agents say that.
That's a relationship.
yeah.
Then she had another problem, which you may very well experience if you have them. They're called kids. And they're gonna get bent out of shape with you. I warn you that you're never around anymore. And I think it's worse with moms who were stay-at-home moms for the most part, and now they've branched out. You're not there. They don't want you there until you're not there.
Yeah.
She had obviously a big problem because there were 4 of them. And there were times where, right in the middle of dinner, she'd have to get up and go. And of course, that left it to the 2 oldest to take care of everybody else, which they were none too happy about. What was interesting, she came up with an idea. She always wanted to get, the phone number and the address of for sale by owner. So she turned it into a game. She got pads, pencils, and the deal was the first kid to get the address and phone number of the for sale by owner would get something. Which I know it's illegal. She said, I made the biggest mistake of my life doing that. Because they harassed the hell out of her. What are you doing here? Don't you have an appointment? You called the guy the other day, don't you have an appointment tonight? She says, I didn't need a calendar. She said, the kids are my calendar. The point is, you have to get the family involved. You have to be conscious of the fact that you have to have a life, so you need to know how to use a calendar. You got a kid that plays soccer, goes to dance, whatever it may be, it's Thursday afternoons at 4 o'clock. Well, guess what? I have a standing appointment at 4:30 on Thursdays. Buyer or seller needs me, they're gonna have to wait, I already have an appointment. You have to start learning how to do that if you aren't already. Or this business will gobble your time. So you gotta be conscious of the fact of, if you have to take it away from one place, you need to give it back somewhere else. Besides the fact, they're great sources of business, the kids. If somebody's moving, kids are the first to know. Why? Because they go home, because dad and mom set them down last night and told them what? Here's the deal. Well, the first part of people they're gonna talk to that'll listen are what? The kids at school.
Birthday party.
I know, have several agents that have heard, their kids actually have business cards on them.
My daughter.
Because, but what's the mentality? In her mind, in their mind was, mom makes more money. She has more money to spend on us.
Right.
Which, you know, that's a sharp kid, but that's what actually happened twice. That's what the kid said.
That's my daughter.
You know what? Anybody and everybody is part of the game. And did I absolve you yet?
Yeah.
What mom tell you when you were a kid? Don't talk to strangers. Well, I absolve you of that requirement. Because if you can't talk to strangers,
Get out.
I hope you got one hell of a network.
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
I started the conversation with the kid and the Habitat Restored today. They have blue shirts. And he saw I had a blue shirt on, and he asked me, he started to ask me if I worked on it, then he realized that it didn't say Habitat. Instant conversation.
You hear it? Your car?
Nah, everybody in there knows us. We spend too much time in it, place. But it's great. Stuff that comes in there is not to be believed. And the deals that you can get on. Because it's a lot of the estates and stuff, so it comes out of these houses.
States.
Very expensive stuff.
Your shirt's purple.
Hmm?
Shirt's not blue.
He thought it was blue, that's right. Well, maybe it wasn't.
Purple means royal.
Whatever. Thanks for. Appreciate it. Top of page 88. The paragraph, the chart at the top is a good place to study from, because most of what you see there are the type of questions that they ask about the zone. So on the top of 88, in that figure 5.3. Yes.
If federal law supersedes Florida law,
Mhm.
why would Florida law have something that is exempted?
Because
that-
Florida had that before federal.
Oh, they don't change it.
No. Because I have the option to go through the state if I feel someone is violating the law. I don't have to go to the federal government. So it can be handled on a state basis. In the middle of page 88, it talks about email advertising. If you're emailing your sphere to communicate with them on a periodic basis, you always got to give them what they call that opt-out, where they can, unsubscribe is another term that's used. In other words, where they're telling you what, I don't want any more emails from you.
You have to give them that.
You have to always give them that out.
I remember, this is an aside, when fax machines fax machine would start going with all these
Mhm.
advertisements coming
Right.
from all over the place.
Fax
And
blast.
that's what
That was
Howard,
awesome. I used to do it years and years
still
ago.
waking me up.
Speaking of fax solicitation, look at the bottom of the page.
Yeah. That's what
I've got a great idea. I'm having a broker open, which means that it's an open house just for the agents, not for the public. And I'm gonna fax all the agents who do business in that area. Let them know that I have an open house. I have to have their written permission to do that.
You have to have prior, they're written.
Did they have broker days
Yes.
only
Yeah.
here? Because
Yeah.
I was in
Tuesday.
California, Tuesdays in California.
Tuesday in South Palm Beach.
So like when you get their contact information, that's when you refer something in.
I don't like faxes to start with, especially when talking about
Antiquated
compliance and stuff,
technology.
because it, you know, it's.
Oh,
But that's anytime you're contacting an agent to come to one of your open houses, correct?
Just like everything else, you gotta give them that opt-out. Saying that you don't want it. Yeah, two, if you walked into the real estate office on, down here on a Tuesday morning, you would know it was Tuesday, because the fax machines would be going absolutely bonkers, because every agent in the city that was having an open house was faxing everybody.
Can they just send it to the brokerage without permission? Or do they-
No, you'll never get to the associate.
I see.
Stupid question, but these forms.
I know
that these
some
people-
companies that pulled the plug off the fax machine,
What's that?
or they had two in one, they would give that number to the customers. So, yeah, you have to be careful of that. Email. Emailing would not be illegal.
Emailing.
But it requires some work to put together all the emails into a distribution list. I know some agents that do that, but they're very focused on who they're sending it to. Because they look to see who's doing business in that area, or doing business in Boca, in those type of communities. Because the likelihood is greater that that person might have someone for that open house than another realtor who works only east, and this agent works only west. So you do have to do some research to figure out, you know, if I've got a listing out west and I have an open house, I don't want to be inviting all the agents that work along on A1A. Pointless. It would be a good, you know, well-spent time. But sending it to the ones that work west of the turnpike, time well spent. Yes?
Question. A table skirt at a venue is, with that, and the person provides their email to me, would that be a valid
Yeah.
venue?
Yeah, as long as they knew who they were giving it to.
Right. The table skirt would have that on, and they provide that
Mhm.
information, that that's a valid
Right.
solicitation without a phone call or an
Right.
email.
It's
Now I
marketing.
received their email.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Your marketing.
Yeah, then that's fine. And if you're gonna do something like that, you need to make sure that Lisa is aware of it, because she's responsible for all kinds of things of that, even when an agent does it. Because again, as a company, we gotta make sure, you know, we're not trying to hinder what you're doing, but we gotta make sure that
We're covered.
whatever you're doing is more than just a good idea. It's also legal.
Right.
a lot of cases, it's not so much your responsibility to figure out if it's legal, it's ours. It's called compliance. And that's, every time I go to these seminars, I listen to the key words. Because if that same word or same term comes up, anything dealing with that concept, it's gonna be something that's gonna have an impact either on our daily lives or from the standpoint of what I focus more on in class. Okay. Let's go to page 9. From page 90 to the bottom of 96 deals with escrow. There'll be a couple stars, but this is an extremely important area. And I'll hit you with the stars when we get to them. All right. What is an escrow account?
Holding bank account?
Insurance.
Whose money is it?
Third party.
It's ours.
Third party. The way I say it is somebody else's. So if I have escrow money, I am holding that money for someone else, not my money. Therefore, I don't have the right to decide what to do with it. I have to give that permission to the person that, or persons that control it. When a buyer first makes an offer and puts up a deposit, who controls that deposit? Buyer's made an offer with a deposit, amount's irrelevant.
The broker controls it.
The broker doesn't have to have an escrow.
We set it up.
Let me ask the question again. Didn't ask you where the money was
This
going.
broker's no place, trust funds.
My question was this. When a buyer first makes an offer, puts up a deposit, who controls that money?
Broker.
We do.
The broker.
The bond.
It says broker.
I think I stood right here somewhere. And I asked you what escrow meant, and you told me somebody else's.
It says 2022.
You told me somebody else. And then you told me it was you. Are you someone else?
I didn't see
They give you the money and they control it.
a third party.
Well, if it's in escrow, whose money is it?
Someone
This
else.
is a third party.
I'm interested in third party. We don't have any of those yet.
As a broker.
So here's the question. Buyer makes an offer, gives you a deposit. And then changes their mind and withdraws the offer. Whose permission do they have to get their money back? Nobody's.
Nobody.
Their money.
Why?
It's their money.
Because it's their money.
Let the broker hold it.
I don't give a shit who's holding it. That's why it's called escrow and not operating. Operating account is where you get the money to do what? Operate. That's where the commissions go. Escrow is somebody else's money
But it's located,
in an account.
right, under.
But
broker's.
it's a bank account. But an operating account and an escrow account are two different things. We're not talking about an operating account right now.
Right.
We're talking about escrow. It's somebody else's. It's the buyer's money. if the buyer pulls that offer, they have a right to request refund of that money, their money.
Of course.
Let's assume it's presented to the seller, and the seller accepts it. Now, who controls that money?
Or not until closing, right? Immediately?
No.
The next person that tells me the broker controls that escrow can count on getting the 0 on the class exam.
Still controlled by the person who owned the money.
Well, who is that?
Seller.
Someone else.
No!
No, it's the buyer.
We have a contract. That deposit is part of that contract. And who are the two people in that contract? So who controls that money? Because if the deal falls apart and you're gonna cancel and release, you have to have both party permission. Why? Well, because it's their money.
Yeah, it's good interest.
So if a buyer chooses to exercise their option within the inspection period to walk away, they simply, the agent simply fills out a cancellation and release and notifies the listing agent of such.
What happens after the inspection period?
Depends.
If,
It depends. Because there's like several things that could happen. Who's the person that would have the hardest time getting out of a contract? The seller.
The seller.
the hardest time, oh, the seller can't get out of it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That, I know that. But the-
Unless the buyer does something wrong, or the buyer can't obtain their financing.
right, the seller-
Seller's like, it's the buyer that has all the options to be able to get out. But that has nothing to do with
Doesn't
what we're talking
necessarily
about.
mean he gets his money back.
But see, that's the problem. The seller won't sign the cancellation release, even though the tenant, the buyer had the right to do such. Which means I have to make sure I explain to my seller how this escrow stuff works when it comes to a contract. And when you come to the training class on contracts, we will delve into that concept pretty deep. Right now, I'm gonna make sure you pass the test. So I have to understand that as an agent, whether I'm a sales associate or a broker, when it comes to the handling of money, I'm handling somebody else's money for a period of time. Of course, using the sales contract and the deposit with it is the most obvious one to deal with. But at no time is it under the control of the broker.
They control the safety in the escrow.
There's, at no time are they in control of the money. Because the money doesn't belong to them.
Right from the sales associate to the escrow account.
No. Not necessarily. Now, who's gonna be the first person to touch the escrow money? The agent. Not the broker. It's the sales associate, you guys.
Right.
Should you hold on to that money? Or should you turn it into the broker? When?
Within 3 days.
ASAP.
Next business day.
Next business.
Everybody do me a favor. On page, what page is this?
By the end of the 30 days.
On page 90, go to line 15.
Brokers are-
There are two words at the beginning of line 15. It says immediately. Immediately what?
Fine.
I'm only interested in one word, immediately.
As soon as possible.
So when do you give the money to the broker?
Immediately.
When does the broker put it in escrow?
Immediately.
Or the next business day.
Everybody do me a favor.
No need.
I'm talking to you, not the book. So I'm gonna ask you to face me, or I'm gonna take the books away. You're expected to turn that money into the broker immediately,
Yes.
if not sooner, because you're handling somebody else's money. And unfortunately, your predecessors have been thieves. I got stories for you. I like the number 5 million. There was a broker here in Boca. One time, it's been about 20 years now. Walked away with $5 million out of the escrow account. There was a bookkeeper who, when the broker signed the escrow checks to go to closing or back to someone, she would go back and change the person's name to her name and cash it. She walked away with $250,000.
What that end up in jail?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
I think
so
that.
she walked away got to do with anything.
Infinity.
See, unfortunately, because things like that have happened, life regarding escrow has become a pain in the...
Like right here.
Now, but it doesn't just say immediately there, it says immediately defined. What does immediately mean for a sales associate?
Now.
No, my turn. It means immediately, but no later than the end of the next business day.
Yes.
Then the question is, what does immediately mean to the broker? It means immediately, but no later than 3 business days from original receipt.
Original receipt being the time the sales associate.
We'll get to it. Okay, one of my sales associates has been working with a buyer for the last 4 days. And on Sunday, the buyer decides to make an offer. An escrow check made out to the escrow account of the company was given to the sales associate on Sunday. I have 2 questions. Question number 1, when does the sales associate have to have the deposit in the broker's hands?
Monday.
That's considered day 1. Or Sunday.
That would be doctrine, because that would have been at the end of the next business day. A business day is 95 for our purposes, and even daily. Calendar, obviously, would be what?
Any day of the week.
So, when's the broker have to have an escrow?
Thursday at 5.
Wednesday at 5.
Thursday.
Tuesday, right?
Third day from the original
Wednesday at 5.
receipt.
Wednesday at 5.
Whose original receipt though? The sales associate or the brokers?
Well, that,
Wednesday
the
at 5.
transaction
He's
is
supposed to
day
be the
1.
agent for the brokers.
He's gotta have it, he's gotta have an escrow account by Wednesday.
Wednesday by Wednesday, no later by Wednesday.
He doesn't
Can I ask you a question? If I stood here until 9:30, would you keep talking?
Maybe.
make your mind up, answer the question,
Wednesday.
and shut up. Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Now, we said it was immediately, but no later than the third business days from original receipt. So then the obvious question is, when's the original receipt?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Who does the sales associate represent?
The broker.
Broker. Oh, okay.
Which means if I put it in my hand, it's as if I have put it in the,
Broker.
they'll just give me a little time to get it there.
Okay.
So then this would be day one. This would be day two. This would be day three. This is the original receipt.
So, you want,
It's not when you give it to the office. That's why you need to hustle your little, you know what, back to the office. See, we don't have an escrow account as a company. The escrow goes into the title company. I thank Ben every day for not wanting to have an escrow account. Because I've been working for companies where I was responsible for disputes. And escrow disbursements orders to the Florida Real Estate Commission. And,
Where is the title company? Where is the title company? Signature.
Military Trail, just south of the overpass for Glades Road.
Okay.
Yes.
Down here, their example.
Uh-huh.
The Sunday gets on Monday.
Mhm.
Delivers it on Wednesday.
Mhm.
No, he says it's
Friday.
Yes.
That's
Right.
4 days.
No, this is original receipt. You don't count the first day. You don't count this day. It's from original receipt.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, got it, okay.
Yeah,
That's what I'm-
because it's not, you don't include when it was originally received. It's from the original receipt.
So you received it on Friday.
Hmm?
If the sales associate received it on Friday,
It'll be Monday,
they,
Business day.
the end of the next business day.
semantics.
no, I'm talking about for the three days of the broker to get it into the
That
escrow.
would be
Monday,
Wednesday.
No, it'll still be Wednesday.
Just making sure.
Now, I'm gonna make life real easy for you. The day you get the escrow, you turn it in. I don't give a shit what this is. I'm responsible for that escrow. I'm responsible for making sure that in the file, there is verification signed by the escrow agent that they have it and we don't. I'm not happy until we don't have it. And if you're not tracking that and keeping up with it, you don't want to mess with me.
So you want a visit from us in the evening and knock on your door? If we get that check after 10 o'clock at night?
Don't need it to.
You haven't got it.
I'm cool. Because you're gonna come to the office and they got this neat little machine that you can put the check in there, it goes spinning around, and then goes into the account. And then you make sure that you upload the verification. If we're using signature title, they automatically put it into the app files. When you turn it in, and once it shows up on theirs, they send a message into the app files saying that, verifying that they have the escrow money. And then that's a very happy time for me. Because escrow money is not something you mess with. All right, and one more thing I want to say. Okay. What I wanted to tell you is probably too long anyhow. We will continue this on,
Next Wednesday, is that correct? We don't have to-
all right, no class on Monday.
No class on Monday?
No. closing the office, so if you want to talk about it.
Oh, you guys have a 3-day weekend?
What showed up?
Alright, we're good.
Wednesday only.
See, I was going to make a
Have a nice weekend.
Yes, you do.
Sam. Rest of the, yeah, the rest of the.
A little better.
Yeah.
Rest of the
Especially now that
lives.
we don't get the sun. I'm just thinking of
He won't be ready to talk before.